Today, we're joined by devout Yankees fan and filmmaker Randy Wilkins. We talk about the latest moves by the New York Yankees, working alongside Spike Lee, and why bodegas are an institution in New York City. Before that, Luis and I talk about what's trending. We fill you in on everything you need to know around the world of Major League Baseball. Let's go. What's up, everybody? This is Bodega Baseball. Luis, dímelo.
Manny, what's good? How's it going, man?
Another day, dog. Another day, another dollar, dog. Know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Gotta make a trip to the bodega later, make sure everything is going good.
Is that right? Very nice.
Pick up the groceries. But this is a baseball podcast, so let's get into some pelota.
Let's go. All right, so let's just go through what's trending real quick, and just like I said in the cold open, stick around because we have Randy Wilkins at Pam's son from he's a filmmaker. Blew up on Twitter after he released a Twitter thread that kind of took the world by storm earlier this summer. But yeah, stick around for that. But first, let's talk about some trade rumors that are going around right now. First off, one trade that did happen was the Yankees traded away Adam Ottavino to the Boston Red Sox. It's the first time those two teams trade with each other in 7 years. And it's being called the salary dump. The Yankees essentially get nothing in return but cash. And then they go and sign Darren O'Day, and they have some more money to play with if they want to. But we talk about that with Randy later in the show, so we're not even going to get too deep into that. But here's the rumor of the day for me, Luis. The Atlanta Braves are in full pursuit of Cleveland's own Jose Ramirez. What do you think about that, bro?
I think the Braves are a serious contender, and I think we all know Jose Ramirez is the real deal. Super underrated.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what this trade is going to look like for Cleveland.
Are you, Luis? It's almost like you serve that up for me, man, because I got you, bro. This is what you come to the bodega for. You ask and I got you. So I actually wrote a piece on oresquina.com about this today because the rumor was not the rumor, but the report was started by Dan Clark Sports. You follow him on Twitter. I'm not sure what publication he works with or if he's just a blogger or whatever, but he is a verified user. He tends to get a lot of stuff right. So the rumor is that the Braves and the Indians are in talks for a trade. The scenarios are unknown, but fortunately, there's a website that you can use called Baseball Trade Values that has a near perfect trade acceptance rate. BaseballTradeValues.com, I think it is. And they have a few scenarios that are getting a lot of upvotes and are getting approved by their system. So one such trade would be Jose Ramirez for Yasiel De La Cruz, Shea Langeliers, Austin Riley, and Drew Waters. Essentially, those are like three of their top 20 prospects and Austin Riley. That's one option. That would diminish the Braves' outfield depth. Austin Riley could play some infield too, but you're getting someone in Jose Ramirez in return. I would do that deal personally. The second option would be Jose Ramirez for William Contreras, Kyle Mueller, Drew Waters, and Patrick Weigel. Again, top prospects in the Brave system would diminish their farm system altogether. But the Braves get to keep their outfield depth, and they get Jose Ramirez, a perennial MVP candidate. I would do that deal too. Just me, though. The third option is Jose Ramirez for William Contreras again, Braden Shoemake, Touki Toussaint, and Drew Waters. Again, Touki Toussaint was like a highly touted pitcher who hasn't really lived up to it in the majors yet, but he's decent. And then they'd get top prospects as well. I would do if I'm the Braves, I do what I need to do to get Jose Ramirez. I think that would make them potentially the top dog in the NL, adjacent to the Dodgers, because they got Charlie Morton earlier this year. I think they got Drew Smiley, Jose Ramirez. Imagine a lineup with Ronald Acuna, Freddie Freeman, and Jose Ramirez in it. Is there a better top three in baseball?
No, and it kind of puts things into perspective, like what the Mets are probably going to want to do after a trade like that goes through. Like they're already kind of like the talk of the NL East, but then the
Yeah.
Braves come in and one up them with the Jose Ramirez trade. I don't know. My whole thing with with Cleveland and doing these trades is that where's the leverage on Cleveland's end if everybody knows they're trying to dump these players? Like it's almost like the Braves don't have to sweeten the deal like that website is suggesting, right?
Yeah.
Because we all know Cleveland wants to get rid of these players. So baseball's kind of weird where I feel like there's never in this case there's just it doesn't seem like there's a lot of leverage on Cleveland's end. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's even like a one of those like, oh, like here, just take these two guys and take it or leave it. Where's the
The,
leverage?
the leverage for me for the Indians is that Jose Ramirez is under control for 2 more years and he doesn't make that much money. So they could just keep him if they wanted to, because he's making this year, he'll make 9 million. And then he has a club option for next year. If they take that option, he will get 12 million. Then they have another club option for the next year. If they take that option, it's 14 million. So he's under club control until he's 31 years old. He doesn't make that much money, and I think that's the leverage that they have. They could say, okay, here's Jose Ramirez, but you're gonna have to give me the sky, the moon, the whole everything, or we're just gonna keep him because I mean, they should be able to afford him. For Christ's sake, their payroll is $35 million. There are, I think, 3 players that make more than that in
Yeah.
baseball. So that would be insane if that trade goes through. Oh my God, yeah. Jose Ramirez, Acuna, and Freddie Freeman back to back to back. And if they somehow manage to approve the DH, I wouldn't be surprised if Marcell Ozuna goes back there.
Yeah.
They reset Marcell Ozuna, and it's, oh my God, yeah, scary. Some free agent signings. Brad Hand gets 1 year, 10.5 from the Nats. He gets 4 million this year, and then 6.5 deferred over the next 3. I have a question, real quick. So he gets 1 year from the Nats. What if he wants to continue playing next year? And let's say the Mets sign him next year. So he's gonna get paid from the Mets and the Nats next. That's I find that to be weird. I don't know why.
You
I
find it
feel
to
like
be
1 year
weird.
deals. I've never heard of a 1 year deal being deferred. That seems weird to me.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of that either. It'd be interesting if that
Right?
does end up happening. Yeah.
The Blue Jays signed Marcus Simeon. He essentially gets a qualifying offer deal, 1 year, 18 million. So I looked it up, and the A's didn't even offer him a qualifying offer. Like, wasn't Marcus Simeon an MVP candidate at one point?
For them, he definitely was. He was one of the key players on that team. Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand teams like like Oakland. Like they're always knocking on the door of a World Series run, and it's like they're satisfied with getting to the playoffs, whether that's
Yeah.
via the wild card, they win the division. I don't know. It's weird. I don't understand teams like that. Um, that's why I never really consider them like a real deal World Series team.
It's probably why they never win it. It's probably why they're always in contention, but they never really compete when they're there.
Yeah. Could
And
it
yeah,
be?
he
Could
yeah. Go ahead.
you ever notice how players on their contract year outperform themselves like a lot?
Mhm.
What if all these Oakland players know that they're fighting for that potential like next team and they're always just overplaying in the potential. Like, I don't know.
And the thing is that he had a down year last year, but it was a COVID short. I feel like you can't use last year
Yeah.
because it was a shortened year, and he played 53 games. The year before that, he played over 100 games more than that. He played 162 games, and he had the best year of his career, top 3 in the MVP voting. Um, the Jays just got deeper. George Springer, Marcus Simeon, they have a really deep lineup here. And I know we talk about this with Randy later, but I still think the Yankees are better than the Jays, but they're not going to be a cakewalk this year. They're going to be a tough competitor for sure. And then speaking of the Jays, they also signed, like I just said, George Springer to 6 years, $150 million. George Springer is actually 30, 31 years old. Did you anticipate that he was going to make this much money? Let me see if I can get my math right here. How much is 150 over 620?
5?
25 million, right?
That
For
those are
George
just
Springer.
6 times. Yeah, that is a 25 mil a year. Yeah, I always thought George Springer was elite. I mean, I know he was part of that Astros team, but I've always thought George Springer was like a legit player, like a guy that deserves that type of money. And if he wasn't gonna get that money, it's probably because it was like this whole COVID thing we've been going through, and
Mhm.
he still got a good. I think that's a good deal for George Springer. I feel like that is what he's worth on a baseball team.
Okay.
I mean, you do you think he's a 25 mil a year type of player? The quality offer is 18 mil a year.
Yeah, yeah, I think maybe the years is what surprises me a little bit because he is 30, 31. I thought he was younger for some reason, but that's the state of the game right now. These guys are getting called up super late. So he becomes a free agent at 30, 31 years old. He'll be about 37, 38 when this deal expires, or 36, 36, 37. So I'm a little shocked by the years, but the amount, no, $25 million seems like a decent amount. They had the money. Most of their stars are controllable. They don't make that much money. So why not? And they're clearly going for it. They don't have the pitching, but I like the move.
I
Two
think
nice signings. Marcus Simeon is a good infielder. I like it.
I think the Mets had offered George Springer like a 5-year 125 deal,
Mm.
and the Blue Jays
I'm
one up them
surprised.
on that. That the Mets wanted.
No,
I
I'm surprised
mean,
that they didn't just give them the other year, the extra year.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was the age. Maybe I don't know, but it kind of makes you wonder what Aaron Judge is gonna get since he's kind of in the same boat. He'll be like 30, 31 by the
Hmm.
time he gets to sign a deal. George Springer got 6 years. You would think Judge is gonna get 6 years. You would think Judge is gonna get more than 25 mil a year.
You think so? I think if he gets injured again, I'm not sure when Aaron Judge is going to be a free agent. It might be next year or the year after. If he continues to show that he's injury prone, I don't think he's going to get 25 million a year.
But if he puts up an MVP caliber season, now you only have pretty much his rookie year. And I know he's been good like anytime he's healthy, but like let's just for the sake of this argument, like his rookie year and then this potential MVP season, do you think he hovers that Mike Trout annual year
If he
type of
can, I
salary?
think if he can stay healthy, yes. And I think that Trevor Bauer is a good example. If you look at Trevor Bauer's stat sheet, he's really only had 2 really good years in his
Yeah.
career. And he's asking for the highest AAV. He's probably not going to get it for a pitcher, but he's going to get north of $30 million. So if a pitcher who pitches every fifth day, and like you said in one of our episodes last week, how pitchers are fully rested. So you're getting like a pitcher at his full potential every time he's out there, unless if he's dealing with a lingering injury. If I think that Judge, if he can show that he's healthy and continue to produce the way he produces when he's healthy, then he should command something like over 30. But I don't know. We'll see. If I don't know. I need to see more from Judge at this point. I really like Judge clearly, but I need to see more from him now. Like if he's gonna be just this injury prone guy, why would anybody take that risk? Pay him that much money? I don't see why they would do that.
I think there's teams out there that will definitely take the risk. I don't think the Yankees would be that team though.
Yeah. Ouch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. It's okay. Speaking of the Yankees, real quick, let me go off topic. You know what I just realized today, Luis? And maybe I should save this for later. Let me save it for later. I'm gonna save it for later
Okay.
because we're gonna there's gonna be a good intro to it. Sorry to keep you guys hanging, but not sorry. Now stay around and keep listening. All right. The next signing was JT Romuto stays with the Philadelphia Phillies. He gets 5 years, $115.5 million. That's the most AAV that a catcher's ever gotten, 23.1 million. But it's not the record contract for catchers. Joe Mauer still holds that. He got an 8-year, $184 million contract. Was it like 9 or 10 years ago? So insane. Um, the last big free agent signing was John Lester, 1 year, $5 million. Good for John Lester. I didn't even put what team. Was it the Nats? I don't
Cubs.
remember.
Cubs.
The Cubs. He stayed with the Cubs, John Lester?
Yep.
Are you sure?
Let me go to my source.
We don't fact check, but we're going to real quick.
Give me 1 second.
Call your sources there. Who do you got? Buster Only on the line there?
No, I have those pop-ups that come up making you agree to allow cookies on your
Oh, nice.
Oh, it's the Nats. You're right.
Okay, there you go.
Wow.
Never trust this
I'm not
guy, guys.
I'm
If
not
you
afraid
come
of
to
it.
the bodega and your cashier is Luis, just maybe wait until another cashier comes by.
Again, I'm just trying to get you in and out. Manny asked what team. I said Cubs right away. I didn't even bother to fact check. Just get out. Get pay your groceries and get the
Yeah.
hell out.
Oh man.
It's the Nats.
All right. And then the biggest trade rumor out there, Dike, Luis. Dike Trevor Bauer, or not Trevor Bauer, the Mets are favored to land Trevor Bauer. They have already offered him a contract, apparently. First, Bob Nightingale reported that the Mets offered him a contract, a big contract. Then somebody said, oh, that he didn't offer him, they didn't offer him a contract. The report is false. Then it came out that they did, but it was like 10 days ago or like 2 weeks ago. And anyway, the fact of the matter is, with this depressed market right now, it looks like the Mets are willing to give him a lot of money. It's not going to be the AAV that Gerrit Cole gets, but they're willing to give him a lot of money on a short-term deal. So I think people are just kind of guessing that the way the market is going because of COVID, now there's more strains of the COVID. People are being told to stay inside for longer. Maybe teams are a little scared about spending money because you don't know what's going to happen this year. That it's looking like the Mets might be the ones who would be able to take on the risk the most. So, first off, what do you think of that? And if they do sign him, would they then become the best rotation in baseball?
Yeah, if Syndergaard comes back, which I don't know what his timetable is at this point. Yeah, I think with the Grom Bauer, wait, best rotation in baseball. Hold on,
You
I
got you
gotta.
got DeGrom, Bauer, Stroman, Cookie Carrasco, Noah Syndergaard, and Trevor Bauer. That's like six. Did I name six starters there? I think, or was that five?
Yeah, DeGrom, Noah, Bauer, Carrasco, Stroman.
That's five.
That's five. Who was the other guy you said?
Did we say Bauer already? DeGrom, Bauer. When Thor comes back, that's three. Stroman is four. Cookie Carrasco's five.
Carrasco over Stroman, man.
Okay, so put Stroman as your fifth starter.
I don't really care.
In the meantime, Steve Matz or somebody can fill in.
Oh God, Steve Matz, please no. Mets fans don't want to see Steve Matz.
Ouch.
Maybe they do. I don't know. Mets fan loves to be miserable, so maybe they do want to see Matz out there.
Yeah.
But who can we compare? We got
you got
Snell,
the Padres,
Darvish,
Paddock. Is Morejon a starter? I'm not sure if he's a starter or a reliever with the Pods.
I'm not sure.
They have a few decent guys. You also have the Braves, Max Fried, Soroka should be back.
Lamet.
You have Lo Yankee, Gerrit Cole.
Yeah, please go through it. Go through that. Are the Yankees getting Tanaka, man?
No, I mean, what I'm reading is that Tanaka's probably going to return to Japan.
Damn.
I respect it, man. I like it.
I got to be honest. Tanaka, like when you look at what's out there, Tanaka's he's a good guy to have on that rotation, I think.
I like Tanaka a lot. I just think the Yankees are, and again, we talk about this with Randy later on in the show. Randy Wilkins, filmmaker, devout Yankees fan. But we talk about this with Randy later on. The Yankees are this isn't the same Yankees. I've been saying this for years, especially to you guys on that group chat. This isn't the George Steinbrenner Yankees anymore. You know, they're not going to be going over that threshold if they don't have to. And I think that unfortunately Tanaka's not a priority for them right now. And for some reason, I'm drawing a blank. I know that they have Gerrit Cole. Did they sign a pitcher recently? Why am I drawing a blank?
Darren O'Day, baby.
Yeah, forget Darren O'Day. Didn't they get another?
They're gonna be running that opener 3 times a week.
I hope
the
not,
Yankees.
Man. But Jordan
Schmidt.
Montgomery, Severino should be coming back. Oh, Corey Kluber, who hasn't pitched in 2 years, but you never know. You never know.
Hold on. This dude, Jameson Talion or
Talion. There you go. Who also missed last year, hasn't pitched in 2 years either, or a year.
So typical Yankees, man.
You're such a
Question mark.
hater. It's
Question mark up and
unbelievable.
down the board. Back to your question. I think based off experience alone, I think I'm giving the best rotation to the Mets. Yeah, because each one of those guys at one point in their careers were able to sustain like success.
And you have the best pitcher in baseball in Jacob deGrom, which
Definitely. Yeah.
throws you up 1,000 notches. And then you have Trevor Bauer, who I think I don't know if last year was the real Trevor Bauer, but I think it's as close to the real Trevor Bauer as you're gonna get. I think we talked about this when we were welcome to the show. R.I.P. Holla. That Trevor Bauer, I felt like Trevor Bauer was almost experimenting and honing his craft in his first few years before he landed on free agency. And that we saw like the full picture, what he's gonna look like basically last year with the Cincinnati Reds. What scares me about Bauer in New York is if he pulls one of those stunts like he did in Cleveland when he took that ball from Terry Francona and threw it over the center field wall, one of those meltdowns, or if he goes on a Twitter meltdown or whatever, and the media's all over him, that he's not going to be able to take it.
I just got to say that with Bauer, I mean, was it a coincidence that the two best NL pitchers last year, like the 1 and 2 in Cy Young votings, pitched in that Central Division because of
We
COVID?
talked about that. We talked about how the Central was probably the weakest. Like, Shane Bieber was for sure the best pitcher in baseball last year. Like, I don't want to take that away from him, but how much of it does it have to do with that Central Division? You know what I mean? And now this year, that Central Division is going to be even weaker because the Cubs are a weaker team. The Brewers haven't done anything to get any stronger. I said the Cubs already. The Pirates continue to trade away their entire team. And in the Central, in the American League, what are the Tigers? What are the Kansas City Royals? We know that the White Sox are great. The Cleveland Indians are blowing it up. Like, there's only one or two good teams in the Central. So
Trevor Bauer's potentially signing to the strongest division in the National League with the Braves. If Miami continues to get better, I never want to rule the Phillies out because they have a lot of good players on their team, and I never want to rule the Nationals out because they're, like 2 years removed from a World Series. They have Juan Soto, who I think is like 5 players himself in one man somehow in a lineup. So I think we could expect to see a dip in performance with Trevor Bauer if he goes to the Mets. Unless the Mets become this powerhouse lineup that could provide like 6 runs every time he's up there. I don't know.
No Cano.
Yeah.
But they got Francisco Lindor. So
yeah.
So they good. All right. Let's move on from these rumors and let's talk about the Hall of Fame really quick. Nobody is elected to the Hall of Fame by the BBWA this year. It's the first time since 2013, I believe, and the closest was Curt Schilling. He fell just 16 votes shy. After that, it was Bonds, got 60 points. Actually, it was Clemens, 61.6% of the vote. Bonds, 60.7% of the vote, and Scott Rowland, 52.9% of the vote. Those are the only players with over 50% of the vote in 414 ballots. I know you have a take on this. What's your position on this whole thing?
So we talked about the Hall of Fame on this podcast like a lot, right?
Yeah.
And I used to say Omar Vizquel to me is a Hall of Famer strictly on his defense. What he, the fact that he was able to win that many Gold Gloves and all this stuff. And I kind of convinced myself guys like Mike Messina deserve to get into the Hall of Fame, Curt Schilling and stuff. But I had a conversation with a friend of mine about football. Like the playoffs have been going on. Yes, the Bills lost. I know. I'm still heartbroken. So I know you guys are too. So he kind of like, is the first question is the Hall of Fame the highest honor you can receive in any given sport? Like, and it's more like an American thing, right?
I think I don't know if it's just an American thing, but
for us,
I think it would. I think aside from a championship, it probably is the highest honor you can.
Oh yeah, the championship. I'm talking about like a single greatest achievement. Like,
yeah, because they're honoring your career. They're well, and it's also they're enshrining you in a baseball museum as one of baseball's greatest of all. Greatest ever. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I see it.
You're almost like set in stone like if you played for the Yankees and you don't get to the Hall of Fame, the next thing for you would have been that your number got retired and
Yeah, you're in
they have a
Monument Park.
plaque in a Monument Park, whatever, right? So the fact that the Hall of Fame is like the highest honor you should receive, the conversation I was having with my friend was because there's so many different eras in sports, different time, different rules, uh different people running the sport, different ways the sport is looked at, how much like, you know, is it that athletes have gotten stronger and faster, or is it that people implemented more like strength training programs, or is it that the sport has gotten so popular that there's that many more people chasing the same thing that we've just gotten so good at this one thing, right? So you can't, it's hard to compare eras, right? But the
Mhm.
conversation came down to this, Manny. You had guys like Philip Rivers retiring, Eli Manning retiring, Ben Roethlisberger might retire. They all came from the same quarterback class. But when you look at them as the player, were you looking at someone that at the time you thought to yourself, this is one of the greatest of all time? Like I'm watching history in real time. And I think the Hall of Fame has gotten cheap when you let guys like, no disrespect, but Mike Messina should not have gotten into the Hall of Fame because at any given time were you watching one of the greatest pitchers of all time? I don't think he's even close to that. I don't think Omar Vizquel is anything close to the greatest, one of
Fielder.
the greatest. Yeah, okay. I know we should give more emphasis to fielding. But when you watched Omar Vizquel, were you blown away by the talent in front of you? Were you thinking to yourself, this guy is he has put the sport on a new like perspective. Like I'm
Hmm.
officially watching something I think that I'm just taken back. You see Mike Trout play and you see Mookie Betts play and you're thinking to yourself like I could be watching one of the greatest of all time. These guys are going to be Hall of Famers. When you saw Mike Messina pitch, did you ever think to yourself I could be watching one of the greatest of all time? And I think the answer for me is no. And I know this kind of leaves a lot of guys out because you even have to start asking yourself, should Ortiz get into the Hall of Fame? Was it that he just got these big hits, or was he one of the greatest of all time? Yes,
So
I think A-Rod is a Hall of Famer, by the way.
so I did see Musina pitch when he was dominant, and at the time I think there was conversations of like, oh, this guy is probably going to go to the Hall of Fame. And then I think his time with the Yankees, he had one or two dominant seasons, and then he kind of fell off. He was like in his like early to mid 30s at that point. He's a small, scrawny guy. Didn't put up those. He only won 20 games once his final year in his career. Um, I think I don't know. I think it's two conversations. If you're only gonna reserve the Hall of Fame to players that like transcend time, like like they just become they're this, like you said, these Mike Trouts or these the Mookie Betts type players or like the Randy Johnson type players, um, Pedro Martinez's guys like that who you have conversations about whether or not they are the greatest of all time, then you're gonna have multiple years where nobody gets enshrined in the Hall of Fame.
And I
And there's gonna
and I
be eras in which it's people aren't being represented. And I think that's what the Hall of Fame is. The way I look at the Hall of Fame is it's a museum. And when you walk into a museum, you don't only see the greatest eras in the world. You don't only talk about World War II or maybe I don't even want to get into history. I think you understand what I'm trying to say. There's also moments in there where maybe extraordinary things didn't happen, but some amazing things happened, and those things are represented as well. I don't. Maybe I'm losing people here, but so in other words, um, I agree to a point. So like in this era, for example, Mike Trout and Mookie Betts are for sure Hall of Famers. There's no question. When we look back at this era of baseball, those two will be the players that represent this era. But I also think that guys like, I'm trying to think of someone who's not quite Mike Trout or Mookie Betts, but they're almost there. You know what I mean?
Jose
Um,
Ramirez.
Maybe a Jose Ramirez or maybe an Anthony Rendon. I think they're also Hall of Fame worthy too. Maybe they didn't transcend the era. Maybe they weren't the face of the era, but they were amazing in the era. So like for the steroid era, for example, guys don't want to vote in steroid guys because they know that they cheated because they were implicated or they failed the test or whatever. I have a problem with that because during that era, for a huge chunk of that era, guys weren't even being tested. So how could you say who was and wasn't using? In my mind, because of that fact, everybody's a user. That's how I look at it. I'm not saying,
Yeah.
I'm not accusing Jeter. I'm not accusing Cal Ripken. I'm not accusing Ken Griffey. In my mind, I'm looking at them like steroid users because I can't discern whether or not they were. So I'm going to compare them to everybody in that era. And if Barry Bonds was hitting 73 home runs, he did it while he was on steroids. In my mind, Derek Jeter couldn't do that, and he was on steroids too. In my mind, again, I'm not saying that he was on steroids, but I can't say whether he was or wasn't. I don't know. You understand what I'm
No,
trying to
yeah.
say?
No, yeah. I completely understand. I just feel like first of all, I think every era, every 10 years, you could almost even make the argument every 5 years, there's a elite, and I mean like elite set of players. I don't think it's ever failed in any era. We can go back, and I've only been watching baseball, I could say closely since maybe like 2012, but I can go back to the mid 90s for players that I consider some of the best. And I think you could always find the elite set of players. And I think you can always stretch it out to a 10 to 15 year period, and you can find that set of elite players. So I don't think we're ever going to run out of people to represent an era. I just think if there's a debate whether or not you should be in the Hall of Fame, for example, if you don't get in the first ballot, then you probably shouldn't get into the Hall of Fame, because you're getting put into a class with guys like Babe Ruth. And I didn't watch Babe Ruth play, but he is forever going to be part of the conversation of greatest of all time. Ken Griffey Jr. will forever be part of that conversation. Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez. If you had to wait, I'll be nice about it, 2 years, more than 2 years, you probably shouldn't get into the Hall of Fame. If you're getting in on your last year, you probably shouldn't get into the Hall of Fame. I just feel like it's getting cheap. It's cheapening what the Hall of Fame is. I think things.
Can I, real quick, before I lose this thought, I think that I agree. I think that if you're a Hall of Famer, you should get in the first ballot. Like, enough with the BS. Like, if you're a Hall of Famer, you're a Hall of Famer. The reason why I think this system was put in place is because of what we're currently seeing with guys like Curt Schilling, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, where it's almost like there's a sect of the Baseball Writers Association. And I just want to preface this by saying that I'm officially a member of the BBWAA, and I hope that at some point I get to have a vote in this. And I don't want to step on any toes. If anybody's listening to this, this isn't a criticism. I get it. You have your vote. You do what you have to do with it. But there's a group of people that hold a vote that feel like it's their responsibility to keep this thing almost like holy. You know what I mean? Like as clean as possible if they can. I just think that's an impossible task to do. And in my opinion, that's not your job. Your job is to compare these guys to the people in their eras and decide whether or not they should be represented in a museum of baseball. And in my mind, during the steroid era, these were the best players in that era, and they should be represented. These guys played during the steroid era, during a time where we don't know who was and wasn't using. These guys were accused. We know that for sure. You don't leave that out of a museum. In World War II, we don't leave out that it was America that dropped the first nuclear bomb in the history of the world on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan, right? You don't leave that out of the museum. It gets mentioned, but these were the best players. Like there's guys that leave their ballots empty. I think there were like 14 ballots that were completely empty. Like, why do you have a vote then? It doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. I think things like, to their personal, there's the Hall of Fame, which I don't need there to be a museum. It's just, if we're going to label this guy the Hall of Famer, then I think we have to realize you're putting guys like, Todd Helton, if he ever gets in, you're putting him in the same category as Griffey, Babe Ruth, Ted Williams, Derek Jeter. I get it's more like his career as a whole, not just like the player. I get I could consider that as well as like a criteria to get into the Hall of Fame. And I just don't feel like I was looking at that same type of caliber of player. Like I get there's the whole thing about playing in certain markets, certain teams, certain eras against certain people. I get it. Um, but nah, man, I'm almost like it's almost like I did a 180 on the way I used to look at the Hall of Fame. I used to think the Hall of Fame was about getting people in there who put together a very good career and did it the right way. But maybe those are the guys that get their numbers retired. Maybe those are the guys that, you know, get to go into a baseball museum for some other reason. But the HOF, you know, Babe Ruth,
So
the
what would
Sultan
you
of SWAT.
say? What would you say about Scott Rowland then? Do you think he's a Hall of Famer?
No, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. Now,
No, I
this
see.
this
I agree. I agree with you 100%. How about Bobby Abreu?
no.
See, I am a Bobby Abreu guy, and I have a lot of like arguments for it, but I'm not going to get into it right now. Here's one that in my opinion, is borderline, and you're probably going to say no, but I'm going to tell you why I think maybe he should be a yes, and I just have one big reason why. Mark Burley.
No, and you want to tell me why you think he's a Hall of Famer?
So I think he's a Hall of Famer because in the era that he pitched in, no, he wasn't the most dominant pitcher, but he did something that no other pitcher could do in that era, and that was finish games. You know what I mean? It was a characteristic of his that nobody else shared in the game. Like this guy completed more games, I think, than freaking the entire league every year, essentially. Um,
But you see, here's my thing, and I know why. I remember your argument, and I don't know how long you wanted to have this conversation. I don't know if
not
we're out
not
of
very
time.
long.
All right, let me just say
It's gonna
these
be
two
like a
things.
3-hour episode.
Let me just say these two things. I remember your argument for Bobby Abreu being that he's one of 5 guys, including Barry Bonds, who
Mhm.
have what was it, like 400 home runs, 400 stolen bases, some crazy 250 doubles. I don't remember what the stat was. But the problem with stats is that every 10 years or so, we're to the point that we're arguing whether or not baseballs were juiced. This is only because we're thinking that baseballs are juiced. We have no
Yeah.
idea what it was like to play in any one of these eras versus any one of these people at any one of these times. How hard was it for Hank Aaron to play under the extremely racist America of the 70s, right? Like,
Mhm.
you almost have to separate yourself from that and just ask yourself, is there a debate whether this guy's a Hall of Fame? If there is, I don't think he should be in the Hall of Fame. And when I saw Mark Burley pitch, I never thought to myself I was seeing something of the greatest of all time worthiness. Like I didn't think to myself, holy shit, look at the way this guy completes game. Also, if he pitched his career with the Rays, he would have never completed that many games. You know, like it's almost like, did he complete the games because he was pitching that well, or was he just a rubber arm that the manager was okay letting up 5 runs every once in a while? You know, I don't know. I'd have to look at his career, but and I know this makes it hard for people to get into the Hall of Fame, but maybe that's what it should be. Maybe it should be that you are going to get talked about the way Babe Ruth got talked about, and it's 100 years later. You know,
And
maybe it does take the 3,000 magical number of hits in a career, but you did it in Ichiro's fashion, where he was getting 200 hits every year. You see, to me, Ichiro, like when I see Ichiro, I'm thinking to myself, I could be looking at the greatest hitter of all time. Is the way I see it now. This is my new way of looking at things. And I know I've said, oh, Marvin Scout should get in, and I convinced myself Mike Messina should get in, but now I'm not so sure, man.
I don't have any qualms with what you said, and I want to correct real quick. I said Mark Burley was closing more games than leagues. Maybe not so true. He was since 2004 in complete games. It's Roy Halladay, Livan Hernandez, CC Sabathia, then Mark Burley. So,
Hmm.
but I wrote a piece for Call to the Pen a couple years ago making a case for Mark Burley. I'm not going to go back to it. I liked him as a pitcher. But yeah, let's move on. Let's move on from this. You know what? I just to close this out really quick. I think I see your point and I agree with it. Like if I look at the ballot this year, um, and again, the only person there's 2 guys in the steroid era that I mark steroids against them, and that's Manny Ramirez and Sammy Sosa. And the only reason is, and I don't even mark steroids against Sammy Sosa really, but I'm going to tell you why I wouldn't vote for Sammy Sosa. Manny Ramirez failed twice. So when there was testing imposed, he still failed. So I think that's him just saying, I don't care. Like, I don't care about the Hall of Fame. I just want to keep playing. So sorry, Manny, I can't vote for you. Even though I think that you're for sure Hall of Fame worthy.
I think he is, yeah.
In terms of your career numbers and everything. Sammy Sosa implicated, so there's no evidence, but he was implicated. And then he corks his bat to top it off. And then he's the Pink Panther. So like, I can't, no, just kidding. The Pink Panther was a joke. But the cork bat, the implications, there's just too much going on, even though he's probably the reason why I became a diehard baseball fan. Because before Sammy, my life was the New York Knicks. And then I liked the Yankees. Like, I would watch the Yankees. They were World Series champions in 96. But then 98, Sammy Sosa took the world by storm alongside Mark McGwire. I'm like, holy shit, this guy's Dominican. I'm Dominican. He's going toe to toe with Mark McGwire. Like, I could be this guy.
That could be me up there. Yeah, exactly what I thought.
So in my heart, you're a Hall of Famer, but in 10 years, if I get the vote, if I can keep my BBWA card for 10 years and I get the vote, I couldn't vote for Sammy if he was on the ballot. Other than that, these are the guys in my mind that are surefire. They should be Hall of Famers. Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, that's
Barry
probably
Bonds and Roger
it.
Clemens. Yeah, because I think when you saw Barry Bonds play the year that he put up the 72 home runs, whether we know it was steroids or not, I think we all thought to ourselves, I'm watching something that I could be watching the greatest baseball player of all time.
Yeah.
Period. This guy could be it. He's been doing it for so long, and he could be the greatest of all time. Same thing with Griffey. Same thing with A-Rod.
And they both did things that we're probably never going to see again. We're never going to see probably a 73 home run season. We're probably never going to see somebody hit 762. Is that how much he hit? I don't remember. 754?
762. I think I'm going to go with the 62. 62 feels right.
Roger Clemens, 353 wins or something. We're never going to see that.
6 Cy Youngs. Did he win 6 Cy Youngs?
Psych throws bats at people. Psychopath. Let's have a look here. It's the magic of editing, Luis. Is that all this dead air? Just snip it right out. Let me see. 7 Cy Youngs.
Damn.
And Barry Bonds. 7 MVPs. Yeah. They're Hall of Famers. No question. All right. Let's get through the rest of the story so we can get to this interview. This is going to be like a Joe Rogan podcast here, like 25 hours. Curt Schilling wants off of the Hall of Fame. Oh, I forgot to mention next year. So nobody got voted this year. Next year, A-Rod and Big Papi are on the ballot. This is what I wanted to say earlier that I teased, Luis. I got my BBWA card this year, my first year, right? Next year will be year 2. A-Rod will be on the ballot, right? If he doesn't get in, if they pull up Bonds and Clemens, they stay on for 10 years before they're ineligible again, right? I could potentially vote for Alex Rodriguez in the Hall of Fame. Do you realize that? I could be that deciding vote.
Not potentially. You will. You will. I will hold a gun to your head and I will say, you check A-Rod, Alex Emmanuel Rodriguez. Yes.
Oh man.
Nah, I don't know, man. The way I look at it now, the way I'm looking at it now, if he doesn't get in, first of all, I don't care because I've said this a bunch of times. Like, we're all gonna die one day, and it doesn't matter who's gonna get into the Hall of Fame for us as fans. So to me, A-Rod's will always be a Hall of Famer in my eyes. I love Ortiz. I love David Ortiz, but with this new way of looking at things, I don't know anymore if I can just consider him like a sure thing Hall of Famer. And because I can't just say he's a for sure Hall of Famer, then maybe he's not a Hall of Famer. But Ortiz will always be. I think you have to look at Ortiz as.
I think you have to look at Ortiz as he's a designated hitter. I don't look at him as a first baseman. I look at him as a designated hitter. So I'm going to compare him to designated hitters all time. And in many people's opinions, including myself, Edgar Martinez is the best designated hitter of all time. Is David Ortiz on level with Edgar Martinez, or is he better? And I think that I think he's a better hitter. I think
Yeah,
I give it to Ortiz. I
I would
think he's a
agree.
Hall of Famer. However,
Hmm.
he better not get in and A-Rod not get in too, because they're on the
That's what I'm
same
saying.
boat
Yeah.
in my mind. Aside from A-Rod's whole thing with biogenesis and stuff, which is it's a huge deal. But if Ortiz gets in, A-Rod better get in. All's I'm saying.
For real.
All right, Curt Schilling wants off of the ballot. I don't care, Curt. It's not up to you. The
Yeah.
BBWA says that he shouldn't be removed because he has fulfilled both requirements to remain on the ballot. So F off, essentially. You're on the ballot. I don't know if that means that they're hinting that they're going to vote him in next year, or if they want to really enjoy not voting him in and him being disqualified altogether. Next story, Brody Van Wagenen is an agent again, and he becomes a COO. I don't know what that means, of Rock Nation Sports. Holla, Jay-Z. And then I'm gonna make that the last story. The last thing is that's not the last thing. Second to last thing is that the MLBPA rejected MLB's offer for a universal DH in exchange for an expanded playoffs in 2021. Let's do a real quick take on that. I think a lot of people were up in arms when the story came out, because um, people want the universal DH in baseball. People are sick of the pitcher hitting in baseball. The purists really want pitchers to continue to hit, but for the most part, the majority of fans want a universal DH, me included. That the union rejected this offer, to me, doesn't mean that it's not going to happen yet. They're still in talks. Nothing is set in stone yet. We don't even know when baseball's going to start yet. You know what I mean? So relax, people. It's okay, and just get ready, because these two sides are gonna. We're gonna get a repeat of last year. I'm telling you, they're gonna bicker
Hmm.
before the start of the year. So get ready for it. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Nah, I just feel like it just feels like we should have had a start date already, doesn't it? I mean, we're almost in February.
Yeah,
Feels
yeah.
like it
I
feels
mean,
like we should have at least gotten like a hey, we're targeting the last week of March as the start date.
Rob Manfred is saying that there's going to be a full season, but I think
I
he
don't
said
know
that
about
last
that.
year too. We don't know what's going to happen. There's new strains of this virus. Yes, there's a vaccine. There's new strains of this virus that are way more contagious. They're recommending 2 masks. They're telling people to stay inside. At the same time, new reports are coming out that the death rate has dropped, the infection rate is dropping. So we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if this new administration is going to be able to fulfill the promise of 100 million vaccines in 100 days. We'll see. It seems like there's some progress being made, but I'm anticipating that we're not going to get a full season. And by the way, I think that baseball should plan for a full season and maybe just delay it. Like, seeing how weak the offseason has been this year and boring, why not just push the MLB season into April or May and finish in November or December or something, and keep yourselves relevant throughout the entire
Might be too
year?
might be too cold for some of those ballparks, like
Well,
in
by that point,
Buffalo.
by the time you get to November, let's say you start the postseason in November instead of October, move into a bubble like you did last year. Go into a warm bubble. I don't know. I think they could make it work.
I don't see how. Maybe. I mean,
We'll see.
I thought the NBA was doing everything pretty good, and I guess the players didn't want to play in a bubble, and now they're having some teams. I
Yeah.
think the Hornets had to miss a couple games, and now they have to. Now I don't even know if they can make up those games. So if
Mhm.
the NBA is having problem, let's just move forward, assuming MLB is definitely going to have problems.
Unless if you're like the NFL and you're just
And
like, I don't care.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, who knows? I can't wait like 10 years down the road. A tell all book is going to come out saying what they did this year, the NFL, because that's crazy. Uh,
Insane.
I also don't think there's going to be a full 162 game season either. I'm gonna say 100. I'm gonna go for the 100.
Or
One hundo.
maybe this is the time to experiment with to move the season back a little bit to 154 games instead of 162. Less games, 7 inning double headers. You know what I mean? Maybe do an automatic double header every week. I don't know. All right. Final story is Gerrit Cole is in a sticky situation. So okay. So here's what's going on. I'm gonna break it down real quick. Last year, so right now, a judge threw away a defamation lawsuit by a former Los Angeles Angels clubhouse manager, Brian Harkins. That's according to the Orange County Register. This stems from last March. The Los Angeles Times reported that Harkins was let go by the Angels because he allegedly furnished illegal substances to put on baseballs. The next day after that came out, it was reported that it was called a go-go juice. That's what they called it. It's a combination of rosin and pine tar. MLB reached out to the Angels about it back in March, but they did not direct them to fire Harkins. Then earlier this month, it was reported that Harkins submitted evidence that Gerrit Cole reached out to him saying, wondering if you could help me out with this sticky situation. Harkins also named King Felix Hernandez, Corey Kluber, Max Scherzer, and Justin Verlander as people who requested his go-go juice. What do you think about this whole thing?
I had no idea this was this deep, but it's funny how it's like it's the whole thing with when they named those players in the Mitchell report, right? Like we only focused on like A-Rod and these guys.
Yep.
Seems like all I've heard was Gerrit Cole. I didn't realize it had King Felix and Justin Verlander on that list, but
Same here.
I had no idea it was a series.
And I know what people are gonna say because I am a Yankees fan. I'm not making a big deal out of this because I'm a Yankees fan and Gerrit Cole is a New York Yankee. No, I'm not. Look back on the archives of the Welcome to the Show podcast. We even tried to make a T-shirt out of it, legalize pine tar. I think they should just legalize this stuff. Everybody uses it. Everybody knows it. Go back to my Twitter profile.
Yeah.
I took pictures of Clayton Kershaw in the postseason. He has more shit on his hat than, you know, I don't even want to get too graphic, but there's so much stuff on his hat that it's undeniable that they're using it. You know what I mean? So
you know what it is, Manny?
Yeah.
It's I don't mind that pitchers use something to get an advantage because I consider batting gloves and pine tar and all that stuff an advantage for hitters. You could almost even make the argument wearing an elbow guard is an advantage because if I know I could put an elbow guard on my elbow and like a shin guard on my shin, I'm gonna step into that batter's box more confident, knowing that the worst that could happen is that I bruise my rib or something. I don't know. That's just me reaching there, but I think what makes it suspicious are these text messages. Like the back and forth. Like, do people not call each other for things like this? Like, why would you implicate yourself with a text message and then make it so suspicious where you're like winky face, like, give me the good stuff, guy?
Hey, Luis.
I don't even know.
Hey, Luis, this is Manny Gomez. I have something to say. Can I say something? This is Manny Gomez, by the way. Can I say something?
That's a pretty common name, Manny Gomez. Can you be more specific? Where do I know you from?
This is Manuel Gomez. I'm Manuel Antonio Gomez's son. My mother's name is Migdalia Gomez. Used to live in the Heights. Then I moved to Kearney.
Oh, yes. Hey, Manny.
So the point I'm trying to make by saying my full name here. Yeah, I know. Hackers, please be kind. The point I'm trying to make by using my full name there is that one of the stories from the New York Post claims that this guy submitted evidence in the form of a text message from Gerrit Cole where Gerrit Cole says something like, hey, this is Gerrit Cole. Can you remember that thing you gave me last year? I'm in a sticky situation. Could you help me out? And I was like, how many times do you text somebody your full name? Like, and then somebody responded, you do it when you first text someone and introduce yourself. And yeah, that's true. But it sounds like these two have spoken before. So like, for example, if Gerrit Cole texts me, even if it's like, hey, I read your story and you're quoting me incorrectly, cut it out, MFer. I'm gonna be like, oh my God, Gerrit Cole just texted me. I'm gonna save his number. I'm saving that shit. Like one time somebody gave me Jose Canseco's number. I saved it on my phone because how many times do you get Jose Canseco's number? Do you know what I'm saying? So I don't something about this is I'm not saying it's not happening. I think Gerrit Cole probably uses sticky substance, but I also think that everybody does.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying that text message was legit, but if it is legit, that's what makes all of this kind of weird. Like, you just really need somebody on the other side saying like, yeah, I think we should punish this guy because you know what, you guys have it that it's not that it should be banned. It's a rule. And here we have evidence that something fishy is going on. Here we have proof. So I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying if it does turn out to be true and I think they said Gerrit Cole like declined to comment on it, just saying "Dike" if it's true. It looks kind of weird, man. It just doesn't look right. And the whole thing about testing somebody your full name, I mean, I could just imagine if this guy works with MLB players, he probably works with thousands of minor league players. He probably doesn't keep track of all these phones. So it doesn't look. It does look. I know it looks odd, but it's not like the weirdest thing in the world to text somebody your full name, especially when your name is Gerrit. Like, come on,
So
man.
why?
Amir Garrett.
And maybe we're hearing more about Gerrit Cole because of the market that we follow. And maybe this is the same story in DC, although I can tell you that I get the DC news where I live, and I haven't heard anything about Max Scherzer until I read the story in depth today. Why isn't that? Why isn't a big deal being made about everybody else in that list? Because everybody else in that list were Cy Youngs at one point, are considered like the top pitchers in baseball at one point or another. I just again,
That's right. I mean,
there's so much evidence out there
probably
of guys
because
using pine tar or sticky substances that I think it's a non-story. And I think that even when Trevor Bauer was accusing the Astros of using sticky substances, in the story that he wrote, even he was saying that he's a proponent of guys being able to use sticky substances because it's safer, A, and B, you know, guys like Pitching Ninja wouldn't exist if you didn't have these ridiculous pitches out there. So it's more entertaining too. So just let it be.
so I just
Leave my
want
guy
to
alone.
say that if MLB never puts a rule and removes that rule where you can't use foreign substances. In other words, if they make it legal that you can use anything you want, I think that will open the door for the next thing. You know, like I think
I
guys
don't
are
know.
already pushing. I think so. I think when there's rules in place, guys push it to as far as they can before somebody says something, right? And I think everything that we see in the MLB today are things that behind closed doors, they're all cool with it. They all see the stuff that we see on TV. Umpires see it, opposing managers see it, but they're cool with it because it's like it is what it is. Like everybody's doing it, right? But then you take it one step further and you're like, "Hey, what's up, Billy? This is Gerrit Cole. Listen, man, get the stuff you could put together. This is all code, by the way. I'm not really gonna say what I need, but can you get this stuff for me, man? Because this is the good stuff, and I need it. Winky face. Like I think at that point, now you're like it's like some mob boss stuff. Like I was about to curse there, but like it's just weird, man. I think baseball can move forward as long as everybody just keeps their mouth shut and do what they do. But then when you put things in text messages like this, now you give somebody firearm to kind of go after you. I don't know.
I don't
You
know,
know?
man. I'm just gonna let it go. I'm gonna let this one go here. I think that the story's gonna die out and people won't remember it a month from now. It's just there's nothing else to talk about type story. The market's starting to heat up now. Guys are getting signed, and I think in a few weeks, 3 to
I
4
agree.
weeks, we won't hear about it anymore. Because baseball does not want to open that can of worms, or maybe they do because they tend to open up the worst can of worms. Like, oh, steroid era, sure, let's delve deep into it. Let's really destroy our sport here. So they might, but if they're gonna start looking into guys that use sticky substances, get ready because you're gonna find out about a lot of guys using sticky substances on the mound, and that's all I got to say about that. All right, that's it. Finally, this might be the record for the longest show ever. For us at least. Welcome to the show history, Bodega Baseball history, short history. But stick around. Randy Wilkins, filmmaker, devout Yankees fan, is going to join us. Follow me at MannyGo3 on Twitter. Follow Luis at Hovamojo on Twitter. We're Bodega Baseball. Peace. That guy over there is a Red Sox fan.
I see that ugly hat in the
back. It's all right, man. It's cool.
And here's the thing. We're all New Yorkers, too. That's the crazy part.
I was raised in Jersey, so...
Well, you were born in New York.
There's a lot of New Yorkers that are Red Sox fans, so I get it.
What other sports teams do you like? So you like the Yankees and MLB, but do you watch football, basketball?
Big 49ers fan, big Bulls fan.
See, man, Chicago. I like the Bills. I like the Hawks.
Okay.
Well, I like the Hawks.
Wait, Atlanta Hawks?
Yeah.
How did you become a Hawks fan?
I don't really watch too much NBA, but I just like the team they had when they had Jamal Crawford, Al Horford.
Oh, okay.
What's his dude? Smith, J.R. Smith, not J.R. Smith.
I know what you're talking about. The lefty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you're Damn,
Joe Johnson.
Oh yeah, but they had
Smith.
The lefty that came out of high school.
Yeah, he was good. He was good for like 2 years. Won the dunk contest, I think. But
Josh Smith.
Josh Smith. There you go. Yeah.
Jamal Crawford, former New York Knick.
Yeah,
but with the Hawks.
Former Bull. He's drafted by the Bulls.
He played in a lot of places. Yeah, but I like the
we have this
Red Sox Hawks fan
and the Bills, Buffalo Bills.
And yesterday. Sorry.
He's a self-hating, New York City metropolitan area guy. That's what he is. Like anti-New York. You are. The only team you pick are the Bills, and they're a Canadian team. They're not, that's not New York. Get out of here.
I mean, I don't really like it. I'm not really big on the New York teams besides the Yankees and maybe the Rangers, so I get it.
But I understand the 49ers and the Bulls. You probably grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, the dominant 49ers teams and the Michael Jordan Chicago Bulls. That one I don't really understand.
I'm a Scottie Pippen fan. That's what made me a Bulls fan.
Okay.
It wasn't even Michael, it was Scottie, because my sister and I thought he looked funny. And then he was good, and we were like, oh, the funny looking dude is actually really good. We're gonna follow them. And that was when they were getting their asses whooped by the Pistons.
Yeah.
So for me it's the Scottie Bulls, not the MJ Bulls. So
okay.
And the first football game I saw was the 49ers and the Bengals in the Super Bowl. And I saw Joe Montana and Jerry Rice. So I was like, oh, okay, that's gonna be my team. So stuck with them ever since.
So yeah. I don't have a problem with that, but Manny makes it seem like you gotta rep your set no matter what. Because
you pick random team. Atlanta Hawks.
They're not random.
The Hawks are kind of random.
It's a random team.
When I like the Hawks, they were going to the playoffs, even though they got bounced out like in the first round every year. They got to the playoffs like almost every year, and then I took a break from the NBA, and here we are.
And then the Red Sox thing I get, because we're Dominican.
I mean that definitely explains it. So I get it.
Yeah, you walk around the Heights or in the Bronx or whatever. Most people, not so much the Bronx as the Yankees, but you walk around the Heights or Manhattan or whatever, where there's a big Dominican population. A lot of people wearing Red Sox hats because of Pedro and Manny and David Ortiz and all that stuff.
And it looks good too. So
yeah, okay. But it's I don't know.
The Red Sox fans in New York are largely either transplants or Dominicans.
Yeah.
I know one black Boston Red Sox fan, and that's it. And everybody else knows the Red Sox fan is Dominican. So yeah.
Explain that to me.
I don't know. I was like, and he's always been a Red Sox fan. As long as I've known him, he was a legit Red Sox fan. Wow. And it's like he's never been to Boston or whatever. So I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of New England sports teams. I don't like the Patriots. I don't like the Celtics. I find the Celtics kind of annoying sometimes. But yeah, the Red Sox. I mean, I'm too deep in it now. I've already seen too much. I've already been part of it.
We'll accept you. It's never too late, man. It's never too late.
Yeah, we're giving y'all bum pictures now, so we're helping y'all out.
All right, that's a good starting point. That's a good starting point. I'm already recording, just so you know. But we have Randy Wilkins here, filmmaker, devout Yankees fan. You can find him at Pam's Son on Twitter. Check out his website, pamson.com. You also co-host Views from 314, a podcast, right? A Yankees podcast, website by the same name. And he's perfect launching point right here. Today, semi big trade. I'm calling it the first salary dump that I've witnessed post, 1990s, because that's what I think it is. But Adam Ottavino traded to the Boston Red Sox for some prospects and cash. What do you think about that trade?
Yeah, total salary dump.
Right?
It's 100%. the Yankees basically imposed that cap on their payroll for this year with the luxury tax at $210 million. So they already made the big Kluber deal and brought LeMahieu back, and their roster is not fully complete. They still have some moves that they need to make, and Ottavino is the obvious choice to move on in a trade. I know that there were reports that they've been trying to move him for a while. It was something that we had kind of predicted over at Views that he was probably the one guy that was going to get moved if they had to clear salary. So it's not really surprising. It's just surprising where he went. I never thought that he would go to the Red Sox. I don't know why Boston did it. I guess they really like Ottavino, but it doesn't really make that much sense to me from the Red Sox side of things, helping the Yankees out. But it's a smart move on the Yankees' part. I think Ottavino was pretty good. I was excited when they first signed him, but he lost his slider. He lost the shape of his slider last year. And in 2019, towards the end, I don't know if he was tired or whatever, but he kind of like lost his stuff and command, really. He kind of turned into the old Adam Ottavino from the Rockies.
Yeah.
So I think it was the right move. I think that it sets them up to bring Brett Gardner back and probably upgrade on the reliever side. They probably need another middle infielder to replace Tyler Wade. But, total salary dump. And I think they accomplished what they set out to do by moving on from him.
Do you know what Ottavino's making, Manny? Like,
somewhere around 10, right?
Do you think that
around 9?
Do you think if he returns somewhat to what he was in 2019 before he started falling off a little bit, do you think that's a bargain, a relief pitcher like that for 10 mil, 9 mil? Maybe they're looking at it in a sense like, if he performs well, we trade him midseason to a contender, get something back. I don't know. I'm trying to find the reasoning as well, but
yeah, I mean, it's probably what you're saying, but I mean, that's a big risk to take on. That if it doesn't work, you're on the hook for
definitely
$8.5 million for a guy that didn't pitch well last year and struggled the year before towards the end. So I don't know if that might be what they're doing, but then again, who's going to pay $4.5 million to bring Ottavino on after a pandemic season when everybody's crying broke?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't understand it. Like, they might try to flip him, but again, teams are crying like they're broke and they've never made money before. So I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so he's due to make 8.15 mil according to Spot Rack. So I think that personally, I don't like the deal because he went to an AL East team, and there's potential for him to do damage toward us, being the Yankees. And the thing is that he's lost his command. I agree. He could not find the strike zone. He's not the same guy at all. But if he finds it with Boston and kicks our ass with it, I'm going to be pissed off. But and I also don't know how I feel about trading a guy away so that we can bring Gardy back. I understand we need a lefty bat. I'm loyal to Gardy. I'd be happy to see him come back, but I don't know. It just, something doesn't sit right with me about this deal. There's just something off about it. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel like a move the Yankees would make traditionally, but I think that's the new normal that we have to start accepting with the Yankees, is that this isn't the same Yankees that we're used to. And I think they haven't been for the past few years or so. And by the way, I'm not one of those Yankees fans that sits here and wants every player under the sun, like a lot of Yankees fans are. But I don't know. Something worries me about him going to Boston and finding himself somehow.
I don't think Boston is going to be competitive in the AL East, so it doesn't really bother me. I think that's actually one of the few spots that makes sense if you put the rivalry to the side. Like, even if he pitches well against them, and he probably will, the way things always work out, I don't think that is significant enough where I feel like it's going to change the outcome of the AL East. I think the Yankees are far and away the best team in the division. I think they're far and away the best team in the league, as long as they're healthy. Mm-hmm. So I get what you're saying, but I'm not too concerned about it. And I don't think that Gardner is the only I don't think Gardner's the only pickup with this newfound money that they have. after moving on from Ottavino. I think it's probably going to be a couple of guys. So I think it's fine. I mean, it's just the way that they're operating. You know, it's just like you said, we have to accept the fact that they're limiting their payroll for various reasons.
Yeah.
And this is how they're going to operate. And even then, I mean, they spent money. I mean, they spent a lot of money on LeMahieu. They spent a lot of money on Kluber. He hasn't pitched in 2 years. So, you know, Tyon allows them to spend a little bit of money and get potentially a high upside guy. So I think it's fine. I mean, it is what it is. I just don't think paying Ottavino X amount of millions of dollars to be iffy for a title contender was worth it. Like, if you had somebody that wanted to take him, it was worth moving on from him.
Yeah. I see you're a big proponent of Jock Peterson.
Should be.
Tell us more about that. How come?
I just think he fits perfectly what they need. Like, they need a power hitting lefty that can hit righties. And really, if you look at his minor league numbers, he can hit lefties too. It's just that the Dodgers decided to use their platoon system with all their depth and limited his lefty at bats. And I think he eroded, but he's a really good outfielder. He's athletic, has power from the left side, can play multiple positions in the outfield. I just think that the Yankees need – I love Brett Gardner. I expect him to come back. I don't think they're going to sign Jock Peterson, but he feels like the perfect guy to slot in. That could be your fourth outfielder, rotating guy when Judge gets hurt again or Hicks gets hurt. You can slot him in, and you don't really have to worry about him handling a starter's load. And I just think that he could go off in that stadium, and he hits righties really well. So, to me, he's the right guy, but I would be shocked if they signed him.
So Randy, no judging on this podcast, but are you one of those Yankee fans? Manny said before he's not one of the Yankee fans that wants everybody, but are you one of the Yankee fans who wants to go out and get, were you upset that the Mets got Lindor, or that you guys could have potentially gotten Luis Castillo and all this stuff? Or?
Nah. I mean, like, of course, if they got him, I'd be super excited, but I mean, I knew that they weren't going to get Lindor. I think that they kicked the tires, and it doesn't fit what they do. Like, if you just look at their history, they don't pay twice for guys, and they definitely don't pay twice for guys like that are 1 year out from free agency. So, Lindor, I said for a while, was a pipe dream. I'm not mad that he's on the Mets. Like, good for him, good for them. They have bigger issues going on with the Mets right now, so that took the shine off of Lindor. Castillo was not happening.
Well, would you have been okay with Gleyber being traded for Castillo?
Hell no. Nah.
I tried rationalizing it in my mind just because I feel like a lot of people overlooked the impact that Gleyber had on that postseason series this past. He was really the reason why we lost that series. Like, if we really think about it, but yeah, his defense was terrible, and I don't know. I like Gleyber, but Luis Castillo, I feel like what the Yankees have lacked historically is dominant starting pitching. And I'm not saying that Luis Castillo is a dominant starter, but he's trending in that direction, and he's still young and he's controllable. And I don't know. I feel like someone like Didi, for example. I know I'm a nostalgic Yankee fan here, but he's better defensively than Gleyber. He's getting better offensively. He is getting older, so some of that is going to trend downward. But I wouldn't have hated the trade. I'm not going to lie. If it was Gleyber for Castillo,
nah. For me, Gleyber is a 23-year-old,
he's a kid,
40 home run middle infielder. You don't trade that for a guy like Luis Castillo. As good as Castillo is. And I would say the reason the Yankees keep losing in the playoffs is because the lack of lineup balance.
Yeah, you're right.
They and a tired bullpen, So there's different reasons for why the bullpen is tired, including the lack of rotation depth. I think the rotations have always been good. They're just not deep, and they don't go deep into games. But for me, they keep losing to these other teams in the playoffs because they're righty heavy, and these teams are built to attack them in the playoffs. Like, the Rays built their team to beat the Yankees lineup.
Yep.
The Astros put all the cheating to the side. Like, they were designed to beat a lineup like the Yankees. You know, as soon as you see the Rays face the Dodgers in the World Series, they had 3 or 4 lefties.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't beat they had no chance against the Dodgers.
Yeah.
You know, so their biggest strength was counteracted by the Dodgers lineup balance. And the Yankees just don't have that. And it feels like that's something that's underrated that isn't really being addressed as well as it should be, in my opinion. So, you know.
So to Manny's point about like the Yankees in the postseason, like, yeah, you're right. The lineup imbalance is definitely an issue. And I know there's not a Gerrit Cole walking around, you know, that you guys can just add to your team. But if you did have that second starting pitcher, that would take a little bit off the lineup having to come up with more runs. It could save, you know, some of the bullpen being used up during the regular season. But like, who do you see? What kind of moves do you see the Yankees doing now moving forward, like with what's still out there?
I think it's just depth at this point. I mean, their rotation strategy was just get a lot of upside and depth. You know what I mean? Like they're rolling the dice with Tyon being healthy. They're rolling the dice with Kluber being healthy. They're rolling the dice with Severino coming back healthy. But I mean, if they are healthy, they probably have the best rotation in the American League. Like it's not many teams that could compete with the Yankees rotation if things come together. So that's their gamble, you know. So I think right now is just the stuff with the margins. They did the heavy work already once they got Tyon, and I like that deal. I think that there's a lot to really look forward to if he's healthy. But I think now is just the margins for them. And I mean, if we go back, even if we just go back to 2020 ALDS, they had their best pitcher going and they lost because they didn't score runs.
That's true.
So, like they actually outscored the Rays in that series.
Yep.
You know, like the Yankees did pitch well. It's just that Rays bullpen the whole year, like just shut that lineup down. You know, it's time after time they were bringing another guy that would throw 100 miles per hour, and the Yankees had no shot. You know what I mean? Yep. It's just
and you had the resurgence of Randy Arozarena. You had this guy freaking, I forget his name, the giraffe neck. What's his name again? Wendell. Like I think the guy would not. Every time he came up, I'm like, this guy will not stop.
Yeah. And he was a bum against the Yankees until like you know, like September on, he couldn't stop that dude.
Yep. So how about the Blue Jays? So you're saying that the Yankees are by far the best team in the American League, possibly. And I'm not saying that the Blue Jays are contending, but in the AL East, they just added George Springer. They're saying that they might get Chris Bryant. They're in talks for everybody. It seems like their name is being used all over the place. But could you see them possibly contending for the AL East title against the Yankees?
Nah.
If they find it, like if Vladdy's the real deal, and you know,
don't forget Bo Bichette, man. Bo, my boy.
I mean, but who's pitching for them?
They got Ryu or Ryu. I don't know how you say his name.
Ryu. Yeah,
he's good.
Who did they got a Robbie Ray's back? I know he walks a lot of people.
I mean, okay,
but he's a high strikeout guy.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't. Their offense is crazy. Their defense is suspect. And their pitching just isn't there yet. I mean,
that lineup, that Roddy Tellez, I feel like is underrated. People overlook him a lot. He's a beast.
No, their lineup's crazy, but they still have holes. Even on the offensive side, they still have holes, and their pitching definitely just isn't up to. I mean, they don't have anybody that can rival Gerrit Cole.
Yeah.
And Robbie Ray doesn't do it for me. They lost Taijuan Walker. I mean, they got Kirby Yates. I think their bullpen will be pretty good, but I just don't think they have the pitching over like a full season to like really, you know, part of it last year was a sprint. But I think now that they're going back to their presumably 162 games, you know, now we're going to see that depth really tested. And I just think that over a full season, it's not their pitching just is. I wouldn't be concerned. Okay. Like the Yankees still have a better lineup than them, and I mean they're just a better team. So
I agree. I agree. Yeah, go ahead, CT. My bad.
I was gonna say, did you think the Yankees still had the clear-cut best team in the AL East before the Snell trade, or I know the Snell trade did them in, but even before the Snell trade, you believe?
Yeah. I mean, if we assume in health, the Yankees were the best team, like on paper.
Yeah.
Like before Snell. I mean, so, yeah. I mean, I just think a lot of things were a result of this like fluky weird season last year. Like I think if the season was 162 games last year, the Yankees would have won the AL East. Like I don't think the Rays would have won. Because in 2019 the same thing happened. The Rays were like out in front for a little while, and they had that series in June, and the Yankees were like, all right, we're done with y'all, and then basically like won the division pretty easily. And I just think the same thing would have happened, because I don't think being so dependent upon your bullpen for 162 games, those guys are just going to flame out. So I don't know. I just think that the Yankees were always the best team in the East, and they had their regular injuries last year, and there just weren't enough games to like really even it out.
Yeah. With I have ADD right now, but I'm jumping back to the Red Sox now, especially since this fraud here is a Red Sox fan. So let's give him some time. But
bro, you don't have to be this. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be mean. Like
there's another Yankees fan on here with me, so we could pick on you a little bit. But what I was gonna say was I don't want to throw them away either. Just because Chris Sale is coming back this year, we don't know what he's gonna be like. But prior to the injury, there was an argument to be made that he was the best pitcher in baseball, potentially. Mm-hmm. You have Rafi Devers could be one of the best hitters in baseball. He looks like he eats boogers on his off time. But
Jesus, man.
I'm sorry.
You better hope we never. I'm
just kidding. I know. We actually requested him to be on the podcast. So imagine he comes on and I have to defend that. Who else?
I want that to happen now.
Right?
I need that to happen.
I've said some things on this podcast, man. So
yeah, I shouldn't have said that. I'm gonna cut that out. No, I'm not gonna cut it out. Xavier Bogaerts. They have a decent team. Like on paper, they could. JD Martinez.
Xander.
Like what did I call him? Xavier. Yeah, I don't know why I said that. Xander X. We always call him X. They have a decent team on paper. They could do some damage. They still scored some runs in 2019. Not so much last year. They were trash last year. Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to write them off so easily because they could always sneak up and bite us in the ass somehow. I don't know.
Who's pitching for them?
I mean, Chris Sale, Erod. I don't know. He doesn't do anything for me either. But
I just hope Erod's healthy. I mean, I'm not even thinking about him as a pitcher.
Do you participate in any fantasy baseball leagues?
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Go ahead. Sorry. Back to you.
That's it? That's all you got? That's your question?
No, just curious, man. Just curious. So we do our thing, and Erod's one of those guys. As a Red Sox fan, I kind of wish he didn't exist sometimes, but then
fantasy, wow,
he has an upside. He has an upside value sometimes in fantasy if he decides to pitch well that day. So it was just the thought that crossed.
He gets a lot of, for some reason, when he's pitching, your team scores runs. He has more run support than anybody in baseball. Like, it's crazy.
I don't know. I mean, the Red Sox are rebuilding. So
yeah.
I think, I just think they have a lot of holes. I think if there's anybody that's really like a threat, it'll probably be Toronto. I don't want to disrespect the Rays in any way. I think they'll do their Rays-y thing, but I can see Toronto kind of like stepping forward a little bit and passing the Rays the way things, could play out potentially. I just don't. The Rays' offense wasn't good last year. Toronto's offense is going to be really good. I could see them kind of being the team that challenges the Yankees the most in the division.
All right, my last Yankees question for you is what's your beef with Tyler Wade, man?
I don't know, man. It's just like an air about him. You know what I mean? Like he carries himself like he's the left-handed Derek Jeter, and he's not. It's just like this thing about him, and it's partly him, and it's partly like Yankees fans always trying to explain something to me, like he's fast. He's really good with his glove, and it's like He hasn't done anything. Like, I don't care that he's fast. Like, that doesn't really mean anything. That doesn't translate into anything. You know what I mean? And like, it's just there's just like this vibe that he gives off that I wouldn't say he's arrogant because I don't want to come across like and make it personal, but it's just something about him on the field that just gives off this energy that I'm just like, nah, I can't mess with this dude at all. Like, you're not the vibe you give off and the production you give are like light years apart. They're not matching up. So,
and I'm guilty. There was a time at the start of I think it was during spring training before the pandemic and everything, where I was like, oh, we need someone like Tyler Wade in our team because everybody in our team is kind of, home run or nothing, for lack of a better term. And then he played, and it was like
then he played. And then he actually started showing up on the field.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's not that he's bad, it's just
he's bad, bro. He's bad. I mean, he's just not good, man. Like, he was good in the minors, and then like something happened. You know what I mean? Like, he was good in the minors, and a couple years ago, I actually was looking forward to him getting called up.
Yeah.
And then it just never translated, and then it's not working. I mean, they just don't have a use for him. Like, I think they gave him a shot, and he just didn't take advantage of it. And he's kind of the guy that we've always seen, like, on the big league level. So
yeah. Does it bother you that the team is so home run or nothing? Or like, because I feel like that's the downfall of the Yankees in the postseason is that if you catch them in a down spot, and for hitters they're down 70% of the time, because if you're a 300 hitter, you're a good hitter, according to analysts and stuff. If these guys are striking, I that's why I like someone like DJ LeMahieu, because he's gonna choke up and he's gonna try to put the bat on the ball and make something happen on the field. And I feel, actually, believe it or not, even though I was trading away Gleyber Torres 30 minutes ago, I like that about Gleyber too, that he changes his stance when he's when he's 0-2. He tries to slap the ball the other way. He tries to do whatever he can to get the bat on the ball. But I feel like there's too many guys that strike out too much. Too many guys that are just swinging for the fences, and they're not trying to make stuff happen on the field. Does that bother you too, or do you disagree with me entirely?
Yeah, I disagree. Like, all these playoff games are won on the home run. I mean, Arozarena became a star because all he did was hit home runs. Stan almost carried them to the ALCS with home runs. The Dodgers were hitting home runs all over the place. DJ LeMahieu's biggest hit of his career was a home run in Game 6. The Yankees lost on a home run. Like, these games are won. Correa hit a walk-off. Yeah. Multiple walk-offs. Like, these games are won by the home run. Like, you're not the pitchers are just too good. You got to find a mistake, hunt a mistake, and hit it out the park, really, or at least get an extra base hit. So, even like dealing with the Red Sox, like in 2018, like Jackie Bradley Jr. was hitting home runs all over the place.
Yeah, that was magical.
Yeah, so I mean, the strikeouts are terrible. They, when they pile up, it's terrible to look at. But the playoffs, honestly, are won via the home run now. It's it's like arena baseball in that sense. So
yeah.
Sometimes I just wonder though, like, that's a fact. Like, everything last year's postseason, the postseason before, was the home run, right? But then it's like, if everyone's trying to hit home runs, isn't it going to be the home run? If there was a different approach, eventually something would have to come by, via the double, via the single. I don't know. Like, it's if everybody's trying to hit home runs, it is going to be home runs in the postseason.
True, but if you're facing Gerrit Cole in the playoffs or Justin Verlander in the playoffs, you're not going to get these 4 or 5 hit rallies to put up a crooked number. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just, they're just too good, and they strike you out. Like, that's the other thing too, is they're better at striking you out, just like guys are better at hitting home runs.
Mm-hmm.
They're better at, like, using their arsenal to strike people out. They're hunting for Ks. So naturally, if you're going for Ks, you're going to get them rather than just like inducing contact and like getting ground balls. they're taught to strike guys out. So, you know, it works for the hitters and it works for the pitchers. And then it's like, well, which side is going to win, basically. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's just you face these great pitchers. It's just hard to like string all these hits together to get big rallies. You know, I mean, they're like throwing heat. They're throwing like 97, 98, 99 in like the 7th and 8th inning. A new guy comes in, he's throwing 100.
Yep.
You know, it's hard. I mean, I think it's the hardest time to actually hit in the history of the league, compared to any other era. Mm-hmm. The starter throws 97 with like nasty break and stuff, and then like they have 5 guys that throw 100 with some crazy like slider curve thing. You know, it's hard. So you really only have one shot in these at bats. So it's almost like you have to be trained to hit that one pitch.
I was just gonna say that not only are they throwing 100, freaking Hicks was hitting like 105 in St. Louis. But then they have to Ottavino, going back to Ottavino, these sliders that look like video game sliders. Like how do people hit these things?
Yeah, it's crazy. Change-ups looking like Bugs Bunny change-ups now.
It's crazy.
It's hard.
Let's see. So I'm going to Tarantino this and go back to the beginning because I want to understand how you became a Yankees fan. What drew you to the game of baseball? Baseball is not the most popular sport in the country right now. It's like I read somewhere that it's the NFL, the NBA is overtaking baseball officially, and MLS is gaining some traction, and the NHL is right behind. So baseball's barely holding on to third place there. What drew you to the game, and how did you become a Yankees fan?
I mean, I've been into the game since I was like a baby. So, my mom would put me in front of the TV and like just put a game on, and I wouldn't move, and she would like be able to like do her thing or like at least get a break from me because I was so transfixed on the game. So I think it's just something that drew my attention from the very beginning. Like, my grandfather died when I was real young, but he was a big baseball fan, and my mom's convinced that like I kind of like got that part of his spirit. Mm-hmm. I can't remember a time where baseball was not a part of my life. It's just always been there, like from the beginning, as far as I'm concerned. So I don't really know the answer to that because it's always been like that. Mm-hmm. The Yankees, just because they were the Bronx team. You know, I grew up in the Bronx. I'm born and raised. So the Yankees were the natural fit. They were the only professional team that was in my borough. So I just went with the Yankees. And I didn't like the Mets colors. Like blue and orange, like terrible. So
same.
Yeah, like so I think that also turned me off. It was like, what are these colors? Like this is not it. So
you mean this blue right here?
So is that a Knicks shirt?
So I don't know.
I'm just kidding.
He is a Knicks fan, by the way, and they do.
I am a Knicks fan. Yeah. I'm all New York. That's because I root for my home team, guys.
All right, relax. I think
who's your football team?
The Giants.
Giants? I knew it. Yeah. Nah.
Yeah. Are you a Jets fan? Oh no, you said you're a Niners fan.
So yeah. I think the Mets colors, and I don't know if this was just a tweet. I never bothered to figure out if it was true or not, but I read a tweet that it was Dodgers blue when the Dodgers used to play in Brooklyn, Giants orange, and then pinstripes for the Yankees, I guess. But
the blue and orange is true. I don't know about the pinstripes, but the blue
isn't that pinstripes because everybody wants to be like the Yankees. So,
but isn't that just a Met thing to not have an identity on your uniform? I just don't like the colors, man. I'm not a fan.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how I became a Yankees fan. It was the hometown team, and baseball has always been a part of my life. Like I played baseball, so yeah, it's my favorite sport by far. Like not even close.
Did you play baseball like in school as a kid or anything like that?
Yeah, I played in college. I had a tryout with the Kansas City Royals between my junior and senior year in college. So yeah, I played. I played pretty seriously. I took it seriously. So it wasn't just something that I watched. Like I participated in and loved playing and all that stuff. So yeah.
Where'd you go
to college? My bad. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
That's all right. Franklin and Marshall in Pennsylvania.
Oh no, I currently live in Lancaster right now. Lancaster.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay. Small world. Yeah. So yeah, I went to F&M.
That's crazy.
But I was on a traveling team in New York.
Okay.
So we were playing these tournaments, and they would have like a couple of scouts there or whatever. So I would play well with this traveling team, and got the invite. So yeah, but I went to F&M, and then went to NYU for grad school after that.
Okay, cool.
Man, wow, nice.
Yeah,
My bad, CT, you had a
playing. I blew my knee out playing basketball, so that was the end of baseball.
Oh man, that's what happened to
Aaron Boone.
Aaron Boone, yeah.
Yeah, Aaron Boone. That's the one thing that Aaron Boone and I have in common. That's
Do you like Aaron Boone as the manager of the Yankees? I know he's obviously back-to-back 100-game seasons, and then last year you guys went to the playoffs. But do you like Aaron Boone?
I'm gonna plead the fifth on that one.
Oh man, because I gotta be honest, like sometimes what he says is what rubs me the wrong way. I'm not a Yankee fan, but sometimes the things he says, like I think he defended Gary Sanchez in the offseason this year. I don't know, man.
I won't plead the fifth. I mean, like, I don't think he's the best in-game manager. I think that's like an area that he needs to continue to improve upon. I think he was the right guy for what the Yankees were looking for.
Right.
I wasn't totally thrilled with how he handled the struggles that they had during the summer, last season. I think he could have been a little bit more aggressive with some of his lineup choices and stuff, but I think he's the right guy for what the organization wants now. So I think he fits it. I think he satisfies everything that they want in a modern day manager. I don't think that he's going anywhere. Like, I think he's going to be the manager for a while. And I just hope that his in-game management improves as the seasons go by.
I agree. I think if we could take Joe Girardi's in-game managerial style and Aaron Boone's personality in the clubhouse and meld them together, you'd have the perfect manager. Yeah, I didn't think that Girardi should have gone after that season. Actually, that's kind of the birth of this podcast, was because we were debating it for hours at night. Because people were bashing Girardi for taking out what was the move that led to the Lindor home run in Cleveland.
He didn't challenge. He didn't challenge the foul tip off Lindor's. Right. Not at Lindor. It was the guy batted before Lindor.
Right.
I don't remember who it was, but yeah, it hit the knob of the bat.
Right.
Yeah, and crazy, man.
I get it, but the Yankees wound up winning that series, and they went to Game 7 of the ALCS against the Houston Astros, who wound up winning the World Series. That team was not even supposed to be there. That was like they cheated, right? Exactly. Though, that didn't come out until a year or two later. But I didn't think Girardi should go, but whatever. That's in the past. I do like Boone, but I agree with you. I think his in-game managerial decisions are, I don't know, suspect. Like I spoke to Carlos Mendoza for the podcast, and I asked him about Game 2, the decision to take out Davy Garcia after the first inning, and they took full ownership that it was him and Boone's decision to do that was the plan all along. And I'm just like, I don't get it. Like, what if Davy had been dominant that first inning? And yeah, he threw 30 pitches and he gave up a home run to Randy Arozarena, who was freaking on fire this postseason. Right. Let's see what he could do. You know what I mean? And I don't know. But anyway, stuff like that. I'm just like,
that was that. Yeah, that decision. I still don't understand. I mean, I just don't know what went into that. And then on top of that, you have you put Happ in a position that he's not in, and that he clearly didn't buy into the decision. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just that. Just go with Davey or go with Happ. Let Happ start.
Right.
And then go Davey. And then go Davey. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't know. They went into it thinking that they were down 0-1 rather than up 1-0 against a team that, I mean, I don't care if I'm disrespecting the Rays. That's like our brand or whatever, but like they just weren't better than the Yankees. You didn't have to play this mix and match game with them. If you just put all your chips on the table and just went at them, you probably win that series in 3 or 4 games. And it just felt like they overthought it and brought them into the series when they really could have put their foot on their necks and ended the series pretty early. So
yeah, they decided to play the Rays brand of baseball, even though the Rays weren't leading at that point. Like there was no reason for that. Like
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. It was just like they were ahead in the series. So why are you changing things? You're like you're ahead. You smacked them the day before.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know.
And Cash had he knew. It's almost like he knew what they were up to, or he was prepared for it.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, the lineup balance, because as soon as Davey came in, he was able to make the changes that he needed to do to adjust for, not when J Happ came in to face off against a lefty pitcher. It just, I don't know. None of it made sense. That's in the past, though. We're ready for this. We're ready for this year.
Yeah.
I want to talk about your film career a little bit. So I watched Deer in preparation for this. I don't have Apple Plus, so I didn't think that I could watch it. And then I was like, let me see if I could. And it was actually available. So like anybody who's out there, if you want to check out Randy's episode of Deer ... It's a Spike Lee episode. The first episode is available for free, so you guys can actually check that out for free on Apple Plus. And I loved it, man. I thought it was really good. First off, I'm a huge Spike Lee fan. I'm a huge movie buff, so like I own all of his movies. He was selling copies of Do the Right Thing, the Criterion Collection signed, and I know that it's BS because he probably signs like thousands of them and stuff. He's not even thinking about it, but I was like, I need a copy of that because Spike signed it.
Yeah.
And just the concept of the movie, were these letters written for the movie, or were these letters that these people wrote to Spike Lee like throughout his career?
Oh no, they were letters written for the series. But it was the words of the people that wrote them.
Okay.
So the letters were written along with like some of the producers, just to like kind of guide them, but it was their words. And then those letters were adapted into scripts. So like when you see the letter writers kind of walking through the scenarios, those are scripts. So the show is basically like a documentary narrative hybrid.
Okay.
And those letters are written specifically to what the series called the Icon. So Spike was the icon in that episode. And yeah, it's basically it's tailored to that person. So it's not something that was written 5 or 10 years ago. It was way more recent and for the show, but it's a collection of their experiences over time. That was an emphasis, that it wasn't just somebody that, or a letter that just talked about one moment or like one specific event in their life, but kind of this overarching, long-lasting impact that the icon had on that person.
And since you had the first, I believe the Spike Lee episode is the first episode in that series, right? So did you have to are you kind of like, is this like because usually the pilot episode is directed or created by the person who developed the concept. Is this your concept or did somebody hire you to?
I was hired. The concept was created by RJ Cutler.
Okay.
Who's a major force in Hollywood and TV and documentaries. He did the Billie Eilish documentary recently and the Belushi doc as well. So, but I mean, he's done a ton of stuff. Like he's a heavy hitter. So, he created the concept along with Apple. The idea of the letter writers walking through these scenarios was actually taken from one of the first Apple Watches commercials.
Oh, okay.
Built a series out of that concept. So they hired me to be a part of it, but we were in their production schedule. The Spike Lee episode was actually the very last one that was filmed.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't think that we were going to be the first episode. I thought we were going to be the last episode. That's what we were told when we showed up. And I think we did a strong enough job and it was compelling enough where they wanted to kick off the series with that episode. So I'm pretty proud of that because I didn't know that it was going to be the first episode until they announced it. So, I guess we did a pretty good job and they felt comfortable and confident that this is the episode that they can put all their hopes and expectations into to grab an audience. And I think it did that. And, the show did really well.
Cool. And did Spike select you specifically to direct his episode, or was that just a coincidence? Because you guys have worked together a lot, it seems, in the past.
Yeah, I basically grew up under Spike professionally. So I've known Spike for about going on 18 years now. So,
Wow.
no, he didn't pick me. He had no idea. We were actually, when I got the job, we were working on a Jackie Robinson commercial for Budweiser.
Mm-hmm.
And he walked into his edit room. So he has like 3 or 4 edit rooms in his 40 acres office. And we had just finished talking about the commercial or something. And he walked back in for something. I said, "You're doing this show for Apple, right?" And at first he didn't know what I was talking about. He forgot. And I was like, they're doing this show on you. And he was like, "Oh, yeah. And I was like, "Well, I'm directing it." And he looked at me and he walked out the room and then he walks back in and then he just laughed and then he just like walks right back out the room. So, he didn't pick me. He didn't expect it. It was kind of like a small world thing.
Yeah.
I caught him off guard when I told him that I was actually going to be the one directing him. So
that's awesome. So how was it being the person? Because I saw that. Well, you did that Spike Lil joint, that the Roy Jones documentary, the ESPN 30 for 30 short. You directed that for Spike, I guess. But other than that, I saw that you worked as editor in some of his stuff. How was it working behind the camera, directing him as opposed to him kind of running the show?
It was weird at first because I didn't know how he was going to respond. I didn't know. He's been basically telling me what to do and how to do it for so long that when the roles were reversed, I wasn't really sure how he was going to approach it. But I mean, he was amazing. Like he was really open with me during the interview. He was really vulnerable in telling his story, and he doesn't always tell his story so openly like that. So, I mean, he was amazing. He really helped me out by being willing to talk about the stuff that he did talk about in the episode. And we filmed it literally the day before the Oscars when he won the Oscar by Klansman. So he had limited time because he had so many engagements and places that he had to be because it was such a wild weekend. And we were there super early to make sure that it accommodated him. But he was awesome. He was great. I mean, it like surpassed any expectation that I had. And it was great. It wasn't, once we got going, it wasn't awkward. It wasn't weird. It wasn't, it was just like talking to somebody that I've known for a really long time.
Yeah, and I learned a lot about Spike during that documentary. I recommend anybody who's interested to check it out. Things like about his mother being a cinephile and his father kind of not being such a big movie fan, being more of a realist about him following his career, about him how he got the job to direct Malcolm X. I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was somebody else's gig, and then he kind of didn't take it because the guy willingly gave it up and said he's right. It should be directed by a black man. And he should have won the Oscar for that, by the way. He was robbed. I'm just going to throw that out there.
100%. So was Denzel.
Yeah. Oh my God. But that I really enjoyed that documentary. So nice work on that. And what do you have? You've done a lot of work. I also watched parts of Oswaldo's, and I saw Lemon Anderson on there. I was like, oh, look at that. And Gina Rodriguez. Young Gina Rodriguez. What do you have coming up? What could we look forward to in film for you?
Well, I have another short that I did over the pandemic summer, America in Noir, which was basically inspired by the George Floyd protests and the Breonna Taylor protests. And, instead of creating something that felt like in my mind was just a recap of police brutality videos, I wanted to make something that was a love letter to Black people in America and to the country, really. So my girlfriend and I collaborated to make this film. We shot it on Super 8, just shot portraits of people throughout New York City, and filmed protests and told this love letter to it. So that's something that I'm pretty proud of that came out. I also recently did the Pepsi Bodega Give Back spot with the Bodega boys, Ditas and Mero. So that did really well. So that's up there too. And I've been working a lot. You know, they won't let me tell everybody what it is. I have to like keep it close to the vest. But yeah, I've been working and had these projects that I'm really proud of, and they're all up on my website. And there's definitely more stuff down the pipe. So just have to stay tuned when they actually give me permission to start announcing some of these things.
And when that Disa Samara Bodega piece came out, the Pepsi, I don't know, is it a commercial? I'm not sure. But anyway, that's not the point. When that came out, I retweeted it because it was the first time that I saw us represented on the screen in that way. My cousin Luis and I, we come from a family of bodegueros. My dad had a liquor store in the Bronx for years, on Marion. I forget what street it's off now, but and bodegas throughout that's how they made their way here in this country. And to this day, Luis's father has, I guess it's a little mini market or whatever in Newark, New Jersey. My dad works for him still. And so the concept of this podcast was you're coming to a bodega talking shit like you do in any bodega, right? So I really appreciated that, seeing that and seeing someone being seen like that bodeguero was in that short, because the fact of the matter is that these places serve kind of like community centers, and they provide to people who don't have many times. I can't tell you how many times my dad has not charged someone for food that they might be lacking. You know what I mean? And you don't see that in big stores like Target and Walmart and all this stuff. So I really appreciated that. And I just wanted to ask you, how did you get picked for that? And how did you guys get Desus and Mero to jump onto that project?
Well, first, I appreciate those words. Bodegas are institutions in New York City. They're not just like stores, they're institutions. Yeah. So that's why when all that crazy bodega talk was going on Twitter, I was just like, you have no idea what this is. Not Wawa. You know what I mean? Like, they're not comparable at all, just because there's a very strong like social and social economic function that bodegas serve for their communities across the board, regardless if you're Dominican, Black, white, doesn't matter. Like, if they're in your neighborhood, they're critical pieces. So, and they're immigrant stories too, So, I thought it was really important to tell that story. I'm glad I was able to tell it. They just VaynerMedia, who was an agency, they just reached out to me. They had reached out to me for another project that didn't work out, but we had left a strong impression on them with that project when we pitched it. And then when this came around for Pepsi, they thought that I was the right person to tell that story. I mean, I'm from the Bronx. Bodegas are a part of my upbringing and my life now. So it's a story that I'm familiar with. I understood the communal importance of bodegas, and I understand just how important they are. So I think that the first pitch opened up the door for me to get this project, just because I had also focused on a theme of community for the project that didn't happen. And I think that it resonated with the people at Vayner. So they felt that I was the right person to tell it. And then they just pitched the idea to the Bodega boys, and they just jumped all over it. It was a big opportunity for them to work with a big brand like Pepsi. And if there was a more perfect project for them, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So it's like, it was just perfect symmetry across the board. So they were the right people to do it. They wanted to do it. They hopped on it right away. And, it was basically just three guys from the Bronx telling their story. So, it came out great.
All right. And then the last thing, and I'll turn it over to Luis here because he's a big fanboy, but the Jackie Robinson documentary was also the short, the for MLB that you did was also really good. And I saw that you had Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts, right? Was narrating?
Yeah.
All right, Luis, go ahead. Ask him all the Mookie Betts questions you want, man.
Oh man, what is he like? What's his thing? No, I don't have a Mookie specific question, but
no, I'm just kidding.
Nah, Mookie was cool. He recorded it when they were in San Francisco. They were on the road, and because of COVID, they had all these, nobody was in the ballpark except for people that had the credentials. So The recording didn't last that long because it was right before their batting practice, and they have so many things that they have to do protocols wise. But I mean, a little time that I spent with him, he was cool as hell. The one thing I did, you could pick up on it immediately, is his drive to be perfect. Because even when we were doing the voiceover and say he flubbed a line or whatever, he was genuinely mad at himself for messing up. And he took the voiceover as seriously as he took his craft as a baseball player. And it was crazy to witness somebody be that driven to be great at like everything. So when people talk about that, it feels like it's a throwaway cliche. But when you actually see somebody who's at that level of their profession and you actually see that attitude in real time, was really fascinating. So I'm not surprised that he's, top 3 player in the league just because of that attitude. And this was just for a voiceover for a short, it wasn't even his thing. And his dedication to being the best that he could possibly be and making it as great as it could be was readily apparent, like immediately. So that's what stood out to me the most about him.
Yeah, man. Is one of a kind, Mookie.
I think he's not to blow smoke, and I was saying this when he was with the Red Sox too. I think he's the best player in baseball. Like that, I don't think I think Mike Trout is out of this world, but Mookie brings to the table some things that Mike Trout doesn't, that you can't put a number to it. You can't, it's just, there's just something else about him. He's really special. And that's the most positive thing I'll say about him. That's enough for now.
I think I think it's fair to say that he has like an actual affect on people.
Yeah.
Like the teams that he's on are different when he's there. And I don't think that that's true for Mike Trout. I think Mike Trout he's the best baseball player, like just production wise, maybe talent wise, but I don't think he has the emotional impact on the team that Betts does. And I think that that's the separator, because I know the Angels, they haven't built their teams in the best way, but it's just odd to me that they just are never in the race to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And now Mookie's been on 2 teams, one that was built around him and one that he joined, and he automatically elevated them. And you see Mookie leave Boston and they're not the same in many ways. They're not like just a good team or as good of a team as they were when he was there, but it's just a different feel to the Red Sox, and he has a lot to do with that. And I just feel like Trout's there putting up great numbers and that's it. Like historic numbers, but in terms of affect on a team, I think Mookie is far and away the most impactful player in baseball.
Yeah.
Not too many things upset me. Like obviously, like losing a big game upsets you, but when Mookie was no longer on the Red Sox, I was just like, I just felt like betrayed. Like somehow, like all this stuff you invested, and then you dream for a player like this, and then he's just gone. Like
Dombrowski, man. You could blame Dombrowski.
You love saying that. You love it.
I'm just saying, man, you bought a championship, and that's fine. Like you got yourself a championship. But now you lost the greatest player in baseball. Like
honestly,
that's inexcusable.
Like,
that's inexcusable. I'm sorry.
Honestly, like I don't really. I swear, like it's hard for me to get so upset. Like the Bills lost yesterday. It sucked. It'll be over. It'll be over by the end of the week. Because it's been a long time since they've been in that position. But the Mookie thing will forever go down as just like the biggest FUs to Red Sox fans ever. Like
the Mookie thing should have never happened.
Nah,
he should have been a Red Sox for life. Like as a Yankees fan, like I can say this now because he's not on the Red Sox, but like most Yankees fans liked Mookie Betts. There was nothing to dislike about him. There's still nothing to dislike about him. So I think he should have been a Red Sox for life. Like he should have been a part of this rivalry from the beginning of his career to the end. And it's weird that he's with the Dodgers, and I think it's ridiculous that they traded him. I mean, it's just it's stupid.
Yeah, man.
Perfect way to end the podcast. Red Sox are stupid. No, but seriously, Randy, we kept you for more than an hour, man. Thank you for being generous with your time, and I'm gonna keep following your career. I wanted to get into some of the social justice stuff and everything. Your tweet from back in June, although that's old news and stuff. It's really not, but it is kind of. Maybe you can come back on if you're free. I know you're a busy guy. And but yeah, thank you. And everybody follow Randy at Pam's Son, PAMSSON on Twitter, and check out his website, same name, pamson.com. And thanks again, Randy, for coming on. Let's go Yankees.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Go Yankees. We got to win this year.
Yeah, man.
Good luck.
All right.